Welcome back, folks and friends. Connecting Dots here. Today's date is Wednesday, December the 10th, 2014. We are Fukushima Day 1370. And if you haven't seen 1369, it's up on the screen, and it's also linked down below, as well as everything else you'll see in this video, all linked down below. I recommend you do your own research. Someone had said, you only want us to watch you. No, in fact, I want you to watch me and others, but, let's clarify that here. Let's make it very clear here, folks. So one of the things I've been talking about is that they all promote one another, right? They all... Fair Winds Energy, Arnie Gunnarsson, the so-called nuclear not expert, has been on Coast to Coast. He's been on Alex Jones. He's been on Young Turks. He's been on RT News. Many of you realize that I began exposing him way back in 2011 when he was on CNN News, and he was asked, after receiving data showing that people living in Seattle were breathing in 5 of these fuel fleas, hot radioactive particles per day, 5 of them per day per person for 60 days straight after 2011. And his response on CNN was basically, well, that's why he told his friends that they should take their shoes off at the door and wash their vegetables before eating them. Absolutely false information. And then more recently, it's become more more people here, as you realize how he's come out and said that the nuclear industry can safely store nuclear waste and spent fuel rods for thousands of years. So there's no doubt about it. The fact that he gets his nuclear safety contracts from nuclear plants, that of course he's not going to bite the hand that feeds them. But what's important here is how they all play dummy pool. So he's been on Coast to Coast, he's been on Alex Jones, Young Turks, RT News, CNN, but also how other people on YouTube, and this is one of the things I've talked about here, we have a little division. So we have certain people here that they're very calm and relaxed about Fukushima. It's not really a big concern. And then we have the other crazy gang that are absolutely bonkers about it, and they end up featured on RT News. And I'm talking specifically this time about Radchick, because someone had left a comment here after what I mentioned in that video, and how I made the climate change, and I mentioned the Radchick and the Laura Moret. And they sent me a video, which I'll get into in a second here, but I just want to touch on that because he had mentioned how he was also scared. He had entered climate change way back, I think it was 2010 or 2011, in the YouTube search bar, and ended up with Nibru Magic. And he says from Nibru Magic, he ended up at Radchick, and then Radchick had uploaded that video, I'm not sure if you recall, in 2011, saying that Fukushima rain had rained down in Michigan, USA, had fallen on her daughter's arm, and had caused her a radioactive burn. Well, it was absolute bullshit, but unfortunately, I had my own plate full right now, and I wasn't really paying attention to Radchick. But yeah, there's no doubt about it, that was absolutely BS. But somehow she ends up on RT News. And this all became evident to me way back under Connecting Dots 1 when I was doing the silver gold and the economy back then. There was a gentleman on YouTube, actually a couple of them, Don Harold and DaVinci 15, who were both on RT News, and they were both making videos about silver. And oddly enough, while I was making videos every single day back in 2009 telling people, load up, it's cheap now, watch out, it's going to go. And in fact, I uploaded my one of my own video on June 22nd, 2010, telling them again, watch out, she's $22.35 or $22.75, I can't remember the exact price. Go out there, buy now, because this baby's going to pop. Did she pop? Heck yeah, she went all the way up to $49 an ounce. And the odd thing about it is these guys, DaVinci and Don Harold, featured on RT News, were out here promoting a book, telling us, the silver stackers, that they should buy this book because it's time to sell your silver at 21. So I found an disinformation link right from the day one, and somehow these guys are on RT News. And since then, it's become apparent, even with Alex Jones, who's on RT News, yet, Alex Jones promotes the chemtrails, or very oddly so often. You may have noticed he doesn't really talk about it too much, but somehow RT News, has Abby Martin and Max Kaiser calling us chemtrail retards because we believe in chemtrails. So there's odd, they play pool together, but he won't try to debunk any of the people on that channel. And this is what we've noticed. It's controlled media, and I'm going to continue bunking because in that latest one that was just put out here, folks, and you got to listen to this yourself so you know that I didn't make this up. They're actually saying this in this video and many other things, by the way, and the link's down below like everything else, so you can go watch it, but I'm going to debunk some of the lies they've made in this latest video or what they've said. So let's listen to this for a second.
That it's occurring at is that 1,000 becquerels at surface air? At surface?
Let's say 5,000 is
is that 5,000 counts per minute, which is about 800 to 1,000 becquerels?
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that at surface level?
That's at surface level. That's at
Where?
ground.
At Japan or at the
No,
U.S.
no, no.
or where?
In Montana, cities in
Montana.
Montana, but in the Midwest and on the East Coast as well. And I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we've had radiation levels reported in, San Leandro, which is about 15 miles south of Berkeley, where I live on the east side of San Francisco Bay. And the radiation levels for the last week from that polar vortex storm, the nuclear typhoon, have been over 3,500 counts per minute.
Counts per minute. So
Yeah.
that's about.
Wow. 3,500 counts per minute. Unbelievable, folks, because of a polar vortex. And then, like I said, you can go listen to this garbage if you want, but I'd save, that's an hour and 5 minutes. This is like the Beautiful Girl by Dana, Kevin D. Blanche. They put their face up there, no data, even though she goes on to say how she's interviewed a pilot who's come down with all kinds of diseases. Why don't we have that interview? Why is she talking to this goof, and why are they promoting the bullshit lies? And I mean it, bullshit lies. So, and I'll debunk it very easily, folks. I don't know what to say. The links are down below. You can go watch this garbage, but this all started, this whole Wigner effect. And let's just listen to this. Again, it's fear-mongering.
It is these long-lived radionuclides that will remain to negatively affect the health of all complex life forms that are exposed to them.
So again, just like Beautiful Girl by Dana, the big scary map, Mayday, 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 the plane's going down. So this whole thing, oh, by the way, just hold on a second. What else does they promote?
Chief among them is cesium-137, which is taken on...
So cesium-137, oddly enough, over my connecting dots too. What have I been talking about? Way before the Fukushima Day 1205, but I mentioned it again in this one, and that's the reason why I want the gamma spectrometer, is because we have strontium-90 and we don't have proper testing. That's pretty obvious. So these people want to stick with cesium-137. No doubt about it. It's a concern. But what's interesting is that this whole Wigner effect, and you can go watch the video if you want, and the links are all there on her channel. And, well, it's all about promoting, as I said, these people, okay? And their Wigner effect. And you can go watch at their website. And basically, Rad Chick decided to, well, after that, when she realized, what? The planes are falling out of the sky? And oddly enough, in that video here, this one here, they go over a series of stories. And I'm going to go over one of them, or a few of them actually. In fact, we have November 27. She talks about a screw that came loose on an Air Canada flight here in Canada. Yeah, so the screw came loose. Actually, if you listen to the entire story, the gentleman had heard a pop in the engine, a screw came loose and hit the window, the glass. It lodged itself right in the glass, but it's a double pane glass here because of the cabin pressure. So the captain came out, took a look at it. He didn't land the plane. Obviously, it wasn't an emergency. Everything, oil pressure and everything else seemed to be fine. So, I don't know the whole situation. But the fact is, if you read down below, that incident came just weeks after another incident where there was a right side propeller of an Air Canada plane that broke off and sliced through the cabin. So, are these problems with Air Canada and the fact that we're during a tight economy and everyone's trying to tighten up and save a buck and they're not doing proper air care? Or is it their Wigner effect? I have a feeling it's just normal accidents that take place in the airline industry. They've been taking place for years. And one of the things that this Laura Moret goes on in that video, she talks about two U.S. air tankers. Two of them crashing. I'm not sure where she pulled that story out, so I did go looking for some stories of these air tankers crashing, and that's footage there was taken, unfortunately, in 2002. That's the only time I found where there was two of these air tankers that crashed while they're firefighting. Okay, so I don't know where else she found them, and like I said, I did a research, and you can find out here very quickly that these, these crashes during firefighting operations have been taking place, 2002, 2006, 2010, 2012, 2014. I guess when you're battling wildfires, plane crashes are going to happen. So I'm not going to stick too much with the plane crashes. Strange and unusual crashes have been taking place for a long time. You may recall the one here in Hudson River where a flock of geese had struck the engine, and that's what caused the plane to land in the Hudson River. So Radchick mentions how in her videos here how she'd gone on a plane flight and noticed that they had tape. Yeah, the Wigner effect was wearing out the wings of the plane. The Wigner effect, yeah, it's wearing out the planes. Well, it's making the planes fall apart. Well, if you believe that BS. But again, it's these people not doing proper research. And this story here is from July 2014. But don't worry, folks, it's been happening for a long time. As I said, it's all about doing some research, and if you may have noticed here, he's taping it back up and the plane's right back out. We have old footage here that was taped, taped, not duct taped. It was speed taped in 2004. So I'll leave a link down below. You can go watch the footage. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but you can see here he's pulling off that piece of speed tape and he's putting it down. He's going to tap it, and nothing to worry about. It's no different than having a rust hole in your vehicle. Can your car still drive? Yeah. Is your car going to fall apart? No. So it's all about aerodynamics. I hope you understand that. So just because there's some type of corrosion hole somewhere on a plane, it doesn't mean the plane's going to fall apart. And they've been doing it for years, and literally for years. Okay? I'm not joking. Do your research on this. Speed tape has been around for a long time. They used it during the war on the airplanes when they would get holes in the fuselage. Okay, it's what can I say? These people aren't doing any research. It's all about scaring you with the Wigner effect. And oddly enough, this is put on Godlike Productions, that website that I mentioned where I was banned earlier this spring, I should say, when Radchick had gone out there posting Beautiful Girl by Dana's videos, claiming that the Sunshine Coast, where he'd gone on this 9-day trek, 200 kilometers. Well, we found out it was only 3 hours in a boat, but he claimed 200 kilometers of the Sunshine Coast here, and the Pacific Ocean was dead. So I went and I joined Godlike Production. I said, no, hold on a second. Here, it's alive. I posted story after story, and it only lasted 2 days. They banned me, and I just tried again today if I could go back to Godlike Production, and no. So it's about controlling the data and keeping you in a tight knit of information. Now, here's the best thing. So 5,000 counts per minute, and you know how I've been making these videos, since 2011. I've been using a radiation network. I've been using Black Cat systems. I don't know if you follow these. We all have different interests in life. I don't watch TV. I'm not into sports anymore, and it's all about busting a new world order and the scammers. That's what goes on in my world, because at some point I'm going to die, and I want to leave a nice, good, clean, truthful environment for my kids, and I see nothing but lying scammers. So according to Lauren Moret's latest videos here, she says that we can't trust these sites. Do you know why, folks? Because these sites are connected through a USB port on their Geiger counters through the server onto radiation network and Black Cat systems that would be hooked up to the Black Cat server. And according to Lauren Moret here, that the government, the shadow government here, the New World Order, has jumped in on these websites and is controlling the data that comes out here. That's odd, because if anyone's been watching me, you may have noticed here I've picked up high levels in Illinois. I've picked up in California. I've used this site a couple of times where there's been high levels. Same with Black Cat. I watch it because at some point there was actually 2 Geiger counters up here in California, up in behind me here, up in the Cascade Mountain chain. So I was interested what kind of readings they had. They're at higher altitude than I am here at sea level, right here on Vancouver Island. So Black Cat, the systems are all over the place. There's no secrecy here. But what's really interesting is that does Lauren Moret think that everyone that has a Geiger counter is always connected to a server? Well, I hope not, because one of the things I've mentioned, I've got 2 Geiger counters. You can probably hear them tweaking back here, and my Soaks Geiger counter is giving me right now 0.09 microsieverts. I saw it earlier today. It was up to 0.24 microsieverts, so that's very normal. And my Ludlam 3A, which is a roughly a $3,000 Geiger counter with no USB port, 100% analog, nothing digital in there, it's giving me a reading right now of 38 to 40 counts per minute. My soaks just did a little beep. I don't know if you heard of it, but that's a normal cycle that it goes through. Anyone that has a soaks can testify that every once in a while the soaks will give you a little reset there of 0.47. So as far as the radiation being too high and that we can't trust these sites, my personal experience here from what I'm seeing on YouTube, these are the people that we can't trust.